I wanted to provide some extended help on your World War II, Cold War, and Vietnam War essay that is due on Wednesday for your test. I noticed a lot of people in Block 2 were struggling with the body paragraphs, so I wanted to provide an extended tutorial that would talk you through a couple examples of how to set up your outline. So this tutorial's intention is to just talk about a quick section in two capacities and explain to you what it is I'm looking for. If you have any extra questions, don't hesitate to email me at abarkstill@sau73.org. Okay, so what you're going to notice about your essay is that it's split into three major body paragraphs, 2, 3, and 4. And what I'm asking you to do is for each body paragraph, examine a different aspect of war that happened in the United States, answering the overarching question, how does war impact opportunity? Normally, when you write a writing prompt for me, you only develop one thesis, but in the case of an essay, you actually are going to develop almost a big thesis, which is based on the actual question, and then you're going to narrow it into your three proof areas. And so what's going to happen this time is when you type out your essay, you actually want to create for your 2, 3, and 4 statement, a statement about a war as a whole. So in the case of your World War II section, I'm giving you an example here. World War II impacted American social, psychological, and technological opportunities, period. What you're going to notice that I've done is I've actually specified the types of opportunities that are impacted. I shouldn't be doing that in my overarching thesis, but instead I should do that in my proof paragraph on my proof sentences, because that's where I'm going to classify my types of opportunities. And remember the rule, I want you to try to explore different versions of opportunities. I don't want it always to just be the same one. So that's why I'm requiring for each section that you at least examine 3 types. If you look at psychological, you can't look at psychological again for World War II. You have to go into 2 different areas. But what this is going to tell me as the reader, when I look at your 2 section of the outline, I will expect that your A, B, and C, each one will cover a different type of opportunity. So A would cover social, B would cover psychological, or C would cover technological. I don't care the order they go in as long as all 3 are covered. For the case of my example, I'm going to be exploring psychological opportunity, which leads me to my A statement. So after I've selected my piece of evidence, which I decided to choose a quote from the web activity from Mary Tsukamoto, and I decided that the type of opportunity I wanted to focus on was psychological, then I need to develop my actual writing. What you're going to notice about my A statement is a little different. A lot of you are just starting off with Mary Tsukamoto gave a quote during World War II. Doesn't tell me anything. The idea is that a reader should be able to pick up your essay and know who Mary Tsukamoto is. And in that case, you actually have to give context to who she is as a person. So what you're going to notice is with my A statement, not only do I introduce Mary Tsukamoto, but I also introduce the event that I'm talking about. So if we were to read my A statement, on December 7th, 1941, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, which forced the United States to enter World War II. Due to the fear that Japanese alien residents and citizens might spy for Japan, President Roosevelt developed Executive Order 9066, which interned all Japanese Americans and alien residents in camps. Now, you're going to notice with those 2 sentences, I have told you about Pearl Harbor, I have told you about the president's decision, and I've also explained Japanese internment. Then, I would say one such internee was Mary Tsukamoto. Very simple statement. I'm introducing what my quote is. Now, I haven't told you like Mary's psychological opportunities were influenced. I don't want to see that in your A statement. Your A statement is a continuation of your specs. Think of your A statement for the essay as first, defining the background of whatever it is you're talking about, and 2, introducing the specs. I've done that in 3 sentences. I can also do it in 1, and I'm going to show you an example in a little bit. Now, based on that, I've given a quote by Mary Tsukamoto. I'm not going to read the whole quote, but I do want to draw your attention to a couple things. 1, if you're giving a direct quote, such as from McCarthy, which I'm requiring, you need to embed it. If you embed it now, you don't have to worry about doing it the day of the essay. So I said, during her interment, she stated. Right there, I've embedded the quote, and then I've given you the actual quote. At the end, notice that the period does not go at the end of the quote. It goes at the end of the parentheses. And you're going to notice my citation is Smithsonian because that's where the web activity came from. Most of the stuff is coming from a worksheet. It would be the title of the worksheet, title of the notes. If it's the Cold War notes, call it the Cold War notes. That way it directs me. Please do not just put notes. That's too vague. I need to know specifically where your evidence is coming from. You're going to notice with my evidence, it's not biased. I simply just give Mary's quote. Where I will explain how all of this ties together is my analysis statement. Think of it this way. The A and the specs are inside of a package, and the analysis statement wraps it up and ties it all together. So right here is what I'm talking about. Due to internment, which I defined in A, Mary Tsukamoto's psychological opportunities, which is addressing this word right up here next to my 2 statement, We're impacted because she was forced to leave her home, which made her feel uncertain and unsure of what was going on, which increased anxiety and fear. Now, I want to draw your attention. Issue I'm dealing with right now. Some of you are saying due to internment, Mary Tsukamoto's psychological opportunities were impacted. Period. That's not an analysis statement. That's an introduction, and it doesn't tell me anything. An analysis needs to look at the specs and say to myself, how would I feel psychologically if I was packing up all this stuff? I had no idea where we were going. I didn't know if it was hot or cold. My family didn't know how to get ready. We could only bring so many pieces of luggage. We weren't sure what we should bring. I can logically make some assumptions, and that's what I want you to notice, my because statement. This is a logical assumption that I am making on my own. It's not going to be in a book. It's not on a paper. I'm saying because she was forced to leave her home, I, as a person, would feel uncertain and unsure, and it would also increase my anxiety and fear. Those are the types of things you would focus on for psychological. Be careful. If you're going to focus on psychological, it needs to be about the mental state of somebody, their emotional state. It should not be the fact that they lost their home and property. That would deal more with economic. So make sure when you classify your opportunity, that's what you're focusing on. Okay? So that's an analysis of a quote. Now, how did I develop my analysis? Just a reminder, it was explaining how this fact right here, the one that I'm highlighting, supports this to statement, my proof statement. This is what makes an essay different than an actual prompt. Okay, now what if you're not doing a quote? What's another example of a way you can introduce something? So what I wanted to do to you was, I don't have, my three statement would be something like, the Cold War impacted or increased American, mental, economic, whatever, political opportunities. And then what I would do is, if I was using a fact, such as the Truman Doctrine, which I've decided to do here, and you're going to notice I still need to clarify what it is I'm talking about. I don't just say President Truman created a doctrine. Instead, I say during the Cold War, an ideological struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union, President Harry Truman created a doctrine that would promise continued American support. So I wanted to show you an example of one sentence. I define the Cold War and I define the doctrine that I'm going to talk about. Then I would say the Truman Doctrine's goal was, and I have to add the word to aid free peoples who are resisting attempted subjugation by communist forces, which in the long run pledged the United States to fight the spread of communism worldwide. You're going to notice, because it's the textbook, I put text 768, and I have the period at the end once again of the quote. I took the direct quote from the book, and so I embedded the quote by saying the Truman Doctrine's quote was to, or goal was to, and then I put the ellipses in because I omitted a section of the quote that I didn't feel was necessary. All right. And then my analysis statement, depending on, I would classify this as continued economic or political. It depends. You can focus. If you were focusing on economic, if we're fighting the spread of communism worldwide, this is going to increase money that we're going to have to put into sending troops, weapons, etc. Or political is the idea that we're attempting to stop the subjugation of communism, and we can look at it from the political standpoint. It depends on how you want to look at it. And it also depends on the statement that you created for the three. The intention of this example was to show you that I could actually sum up both a definition and an introduction into a specs in one sentence. And it's not a quote, it's an actual event. So just be careful. It shouldn't just be President Truman created a doctrine, period. You need to clarify the time period, what you're talking about, so the reader understands. Okay, I hope this helped you and didn't confuse you, but I hope it gave you some more information to help you better succeed at creating a good essay for Wednesday's test. If you have any questions, like I said at the beginning, please don't hesitate to email me, and all the best of luck.